Good morning. Happy Friday. This is just going to be a rambly video. Maybe you notice I have the camera on the other side now so that you get less steering wheel. Anyway, there's a few things that I wanted to, I figured I could talk about. Didn't really necessarily want to talk about them. One is Earl's trial date has been moved to August. So there's your justice system for you. Chauncey Hollingberry, also known as Dragonfire Auditing and Law Offices of Daddy and Master. His trial's coming up still in April 6th, I think. So, I mean, that's something to look forward to. Get one done, right? Can't wait forever on these things. What else we got? Speaking of Earl, a couple things. One is Earl asked why I and people in my Discord call him Earl and not David, because he's been using David his whole life, and that's just the name he goes by. So why does everybody call him Earl? Well, it's because when I first started looking at this, when I first started looking up David Warden as in prison warden, as he used to like to tell the cops, looking up David Warden, you wouldn't get any information. David Warden didn't exist. But when you figured out it was Earl Warden, W-O-R-D-E-N, all of a sudden you've got yourself a convicted sex offender, multiple time felon, which is a little bit different and I think is important for people to know. So I started referring to him as Earl Warden so that people would know when I'm talking about him, not to go out and look up David Warden as in prison warden, but Earl Warden as in Earl David Warden. Now, I don't know why it bothers Earl, but I could ask you, Earl, why you call me Emmy. My middle name is Emerson. I don't call you E or Ia. I call you Earl. Why do you call me Emmy? The difference between me and Earl is I don't give a fuck what Earl calls me. Apparently he cares what I call him. So what are you going to do? Also, just as an FYI, Earl is claiming that he has psychologists or a psychologist monitoring me. I don't know why he thinks that scares me at all. Psychologists... In order for a psychologist to really be effective, there has to be some issue of like psychological harm. Like if Earl said that Earl was experiencing severe emotional distress as a result of my making videos talking about him, then Earl could maybe hire a psychologist and have the psychologist diagnose him and have a psychologist lay out how much it's going to cost to have treatment for him, etc. That's how psychologists are used. They don't build profiles on people for civil cases by watching their YouTube channels and hanging out in their Discords. And if you tried to do that, it would be completely irrelevant. That's one thing that people don't seem to quite understand, is what information is and isn't relevant. And if you ever want to get a real good grasp of how people don't understand that, go in and sit on a family law trial or a family law hearing or a domestic violence hearing. And you'll see, at least in California, they'll stack up, 10 or 15 cases that need to be heard, short cause hearings that need to be heard in a hour and a half. And so you'll get people up there, and every time people don't understand what is and isn't relevant to a legal analysis, what is and isn't relevant to their particular situation. And they'll go off on tangents about how so-and-so is a bad person. And, I called and I did this and I did that, and none of it really matters. And that's the difference in being a lawyer and being able to parse what is and isn't relevant information, and not being a lawyer and thinking that irrelevant facts matter. So yeah, Earl doesn't have quite a very good grasp on that. Speaking of not understanding the law and not understanding what a lawyer should know, I have smart boys in my comment section. I watched a Viva Fry / Robert Barnes interview of Mike Cernovich. And, I don't really care what anybody's opinion on any of these people are. Mike Cernovich was asked about him blocking people on social media. And he said, yeah, he considers them to be essentially spam. They don't get to him. They're just spam. And it's easier for him just to block them and move past them than it is to, and to have an uncluttered, basically email folder than to have to go over all the nonsense to read the responses and read the replies. And he called them smart boys because they like to try to initiate arguments about things they don't know about. They bring up irrelevant points. They try to get two people to argue together, like tagging someone else to come in and argue against Mike Cernovich's point. And Mike didn't care. I'm telling you, you came to my feed to get my opinion. I'm telling you my opinion. I don't care about your opinion. If I wanted your opinion, I would go to your feed to get it. And he thinks that he's doing them a service because he believes that smart boys in life tend to be actually guys who like to tell you their opinion and like to correct minor mistakes or misstatements and who generally bring down any conversation. Oh, well, did you know that the norm of Cheers, I don't know if most of my audience is old enough to remember. No, it wasn't Norm. Cliff Clavin from Cheers. The guy who knew nothing, but who pretended to know everything about everything. That's who it was, Cliff Clavin. So he thinks he's doing them a favor because most people don't get the social cues. And by giving them a real big social cue, i.e. I'm blocking you because I don't care about your opinion, he thinks he's helping them. He thinks that maybe that they will understand that that their opinion isn't valuable and maybe they'll learn from that mistake. And I personally, you could disagree on whether or not that's helpful to people. But again, I digress. One of my smart boys in talking about the Oklahoma Senate bill that I went over regarding if you willfully publish something online and it causes substantial emotional distress, whatever the fuck that is, to a police officer, and that thing that you posted online was a name or a place of employment, i.e. like the Wichita Police Department or whatever, or a photo or video of the person, that all of a sudden you might be facing a misdemeanor charge. And one of these smart boys said, well, they're just targeting, they're just targeting people like PayPal Patty, the auditors, the people who are going out and causing the problems. And I just want to point out that before this law existed, it doesn't exist, I guess, technically at this point, but before this law was even dreamed of, there were defamation laws in Oklahoma, and PayPal Patty and News Now Rapist were sued for defamation by a cop for the, allegedly sleeping in a video or allegedly sleeping on the job video. And several news stations ran that particular piece or portions thereof. And lo and behold, the cop didn't care, and he included those news stations in the lawsuit. Now, it's freaking hard to sue someone for defamation if they're a public official, and those news stations quickly demurred out of it. But be that as it may, if you make a law, it is going to be applied to everyone. And if it isn't, my smart boy friends, that didn't sound right. My smart boys in the comment section. If it is applied unequally, there's this thing called the Equal Protection Clause, I think. Equal Protection Clause. Yeah, I do believe they call it the Equal Protection Clause. And in the Equal Protection Clause, if a law that is otherwise facially constitutional is being applied unequally, i.e. if only black people are getting arrested for marijuana and white people aren't getting arrested for marijuana, then that law may be unconstitutional as applied, because equal protection of the laws comes in. And so if only auditors are getting targeted by this and a news station is allowed to run the exact same footage without coming under any fire, then there's an equal protection of the laws argument that you could make. And then speaking finally of smart boys, there is a closely related group called concern trolls. And I don't know who came up with these. I'm not claiming credit for it. But concern trolls are those people out there who want to get up in your business, and the excuse that they make of getting up in your business and judging you and condemning you is that they're just concerned about your health and well-being and best interest. And I have been saying this on the George Floyd deal, and I personally don't buy into the concern trolling thing. I see it really quickly. I mean, if you're talking smack behind the guy's back and wishing the worst on him, but then you're just concerned that he might get shot, then you're not fooling me. I'm sorry. I don't really care. But got to watch out for concern trolls, because concern trolls exist in real life, not just on the internet. And they're the people who want to get up in your business, and they pretend that they are, they just want to help you overcome something because it's in your best interest, but then they talk shit behind your back all the time. Those people exist. Watch out for them. And absolutely, finally, the last thing is, if the best rebuttal to me that you could come up with, the best rebuttal to one of my arguments that you can come up with, is something that James Freeman came up with in all of his glory, and if you accept his statement of the facts and my subsequent tongue-in-cheek statement of the fact that I am just a first-year family law attorney, then maybe you should be rethinking your position as a news gatherer and news disseminator. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.